So we teach what we need to learn.
Mm.
Okay. So sometimes our hardest lessons are the ones that we teach others because they're the ones we have learned over and over and over.
Welcome to A Beautiful Fix. I'm Tracy Hill. Each week we'll dive into the latest thought gem, recharging and reconnecting with what lights you up and makes you feel alive. Let's discover your next beautiful fix together. Hey, real quick before we dive in, you're powerful. And sometimes you just need someone to remind you what's already in you. That's what human design does. It's the difference between guessing and knowing. So you can stop searching outside yourself and start trusting the answers within. I promise you they're there. Grab your free chart at abeautifulfix.com, and when you're ready to go deeper, book a one-to-one session with me. All right, let's get into the episode. Today's episode is a little different. I was recently a guest on Emma Dunwoody's podcast, the Human Design Podcast, and she took me through a live human design session. And I'll just say it's one thing to guide other people through this work, and it's another thing to be on the receiving end of it. There were a few moments where I had to just sit there and take it in. I talk a lot about trusting yourself, listening to your body, choosing what's right for you. And this conversation was a really honest look at where I wasn't fully doing that myself. And as she reminded me, we teach what we need to learn. Yeah, it was what I call my grasshopper moment. You know, the whole thing of when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Yeah. So with her permission, I'm sharing that conversation here with you. I absolutely love her, and I think you'll understand after you've had a chance to listen to the episode. And I'll link the original episode in the show notes so you can check out more of her work. All right, let's get into it.
Hey, and welcome to today's episode. Well, on today's episode, we have another visionary breakthrough session. And this time, it's actually with one of my favorites, one of the amazing humans that came to our US business retreat. Just like, God, how long ago was that?
Oh my God, like a month ago?
I know, it was not that long ago. But anyway, Tracy Hill, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Emma. I'm so excited to be here. It's so good to see you again.
So good to see you too.
I'm still in retreat withdrawal. Like, it's real. Like, I miss it.
Yeah. It really, it's a thing. And one of the things that we've noticed over the years is it's surprising how many people come back. They come and do it again. And we're like, that is the same. It's going to be the same as last time. They're like, that's fine. I'll just go deeper. So yeah, it's a thing.
It's never the same though, because it's new people. You're different. It's like what you told me about going to walking the Camino. It's never the same thing twice.
Exactly. And it's, you always get those breakthrough sessions and you always meet someone else that's amazing and yeah, all the things. Yeah. So today we're here to talk all about you and do an unpack session. And obviously this is going to be a bit more than an unpack session because we've talked a lot about your design. I'm so curious because you were one of the people on retreat that kind of literally grabbed the bull by the horns and ran with it. And you created some amazing content, copy. You got really clear on your dream client and, how to speak to them and talk to them and attract them. And it was really cool to watch. And I know, and we've talked about this, that often when we're in those spaces where the intrinsic motivation is happening, the inspiration is happening, and then as we get out of that state, which is why we wanted to create something that people could literally leave and then press play, then things get harder because we fall into those old patterns, we fall into the old identity, and it's really about, just slowly, day by day, step by step, changing that identity and stepping into this new version of you that you've created. So I'm really curious to hear how everything's been going and to hear what specifically you'd like me to focus on.
Absolutely. So Emma, don't be disappointed in me, but I was on fire while I was at the retreat. That was amazing. Like, I felt the energy. I could see it. I could see the vision. It all came together in that moment. And I don't know if it has something to do with my triple split definition, but connection with people is real for me. And I think being in that room with the different energy types, it really made it come together. But when I left, I call the voice in my head Mr. No, the negative voice that just tries to keep me safe. He started talking to me like, yeah, that was great there, but really. And the more that I worked on it, the more that I tried to refine it and get to the meat of the deliverables, the more I got in my head and got stuck.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things I wanted to, couple of things from today's session is I've looked at my chart so much, but being a human design, I read human design as well for people. I'm starting to focus more on other people, but I'd love to hear from you what you see, if you feel like kind of what I'm doing, if I'm on track, and then maybe look at some of these blocks that I have, this self-sabotage that comes up.
Yeah. So I suppose the first thing to say, it's really interesting as a 4-6 emotional generator that you say, well, once I wasn't in the room anymore, I kind of felt like I didn't have the same energy. So yes, it's going to be a large part of your design. We can come back around to that. But I honestly think that so much of this is human behavior. So one of the most important ways that we change is through environment. If we change our environment and within that environment we change our identity, then we change our behavior relatively easily. So what was happening in that room and in that space was the environment was different. So you were someone different and your identity was changed because you were, you were the one that people were looking to. So really what's happened is very normal. It's why things like like if anyone's ever been to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within, you go, you're motivated to do the things, you walk on the coals, you're like, oh my God, it's amazing. And then you get home and, often you slow down at the very least, but often you'll just fall flat on your face and you start all over again. So this is why one of the things, and it's interesting, even the language that you used gave me a really good clue. You said, as I tried to refine it further, I just started judging and criticizing myself. So one of the things, and I'm a line 3, so I'm here to teach the world how to do this, is one of the things that I'd highly recommend is that you created something that was, let's say, 80% there, okay? In my world, it's 100% there. You could have just jumped on it, put something out, really just backed up and continued to be that identity of the person in that room. Because what was reflected back to you in that room was really the truth of who you are. You're a natural born leader. You take everything that you do, especially in your business, because we spoke specifically about business, but I'm guessing the rest of your life, seriously in a good way. You commit yourself to it. You do the work. You show up for yourself. You show up for others. So I think one of the challenges for you is that potentially maybe it's the line 4, that it's like this external validation, like when other people see me, then I believe in me. But when I have to be my own champion, perhaps I don't believe, that's when I'll believe the bullshit stories of Mr. No. Does that feel like it resonates?
Absolutely. And it's so frustrating because with my business, my mission is to help women understand that the answers are within, that they need to stop seeking external validation. And then I turn around, and if I'm being honest, I'm still doing that.
Well, we teach what we have to learn. Like at the end of the day, we teach what we have to learn. It's like me always saying, oh, I wish I just had a mentor, or I wish I just had someone. Like this year I had this whole story about how I'm the top of my tree. Like if there's one lesson I've had to learn is that I am the love of my life. I am my provider protector. I am my leader, my mentor, my coach. And it's not in an unresourceful way because I've done that, but it's in a full heart, full soul. I don't know the answers, but I know I can rely on me. So we teach what we need to learn. Okay. So sometimes our hardest lessons are the ones that we teach others because they're the ones we have learned over and over and over. We've done the hard yards. Like we really understand this. And I think what's really interesting about your design is that you do have a defined will center, right? Yes. So when we talk about in the healing space, the personal development, spiritual development space, we talk a lot about self-worth and low self-worth. The truth is you have consistent and reliable self-worth, and it sits just below the surface. And this is a feeling that you feel in your body. And as someone else who has a defined will center, when I really started to understand my will center, I was like, I do. Like, I actually do. Because when I'm on my own, when I'm put in a challenging situation, when I feel like I'm out of my comfort zone, I do back me, and it became an unresourceful strategy as much as a resourceful strategy. So for you, it's not about like, I don't believe in myself, I'm not worthy. It's this line for looking for one of these relationships to validate what you feel and believe about yourself. Does that feel like it resonates?
It does. It does. And Emma, correct me if I'm wrong, but with the line 4, isn't there also this underlying fear of rejection? That I think that's a big part of it, because when I think about that self-worth piece, I definitely have always known who I am. I also have a defined G center. I'm Tracy no matter who I'm around. I never really caved to peer pressure. I definitely knew who I am. I feel that self-worth, but I've always had a fear of rejection.
Yeah.
Always.
So that is 100% the line 4. The line 4 fears rejection, and they will, look to others for validation all the time. They will also put up with a relationship that isn't correct for them because they fear that there's no other relationship. And replace isn't the best word, but to replace that. So they often won't jump out of one relationship until there's another relationship to move towards, which again isn't ideal because we have to end something to make space for something new. So fundamentally, really that line 4 is the thing that's driving Mr. No. It's not your split definition. Although, there's that part of you, because you have such strong mental energy, because you've got the 64-47, the 61-24, you've got the 63 activated, the 11 activated, like there is a lot of mental energy. And I just feel like there's that potential that Mr. No is like, well, yes, I'm your ego, but do you know how smart I am? Like I can whip things out in all sorts from everywhere. Like I've got research results for you for everything. So it's also becoming really aware that when you feel yourself in an emotional low, for example, or when you feel, which will happen post-retreat, right? Because on a retreat, you're riding in that sacral energy, you're riding high, you're doing great, you're in your favorite, place, networking with other people. So when you leave that, you hit the emotional low. Now, when we hit an emotional low, it's like, in fact, when we're a low or a high, it's like we have a veil over everything. So that veil is the thing that influences the actions we take, the decisions we make, the thoughts we think, the actions, the feelings, everything. So, if you just think of like a bunch of flowers, if someone hands you a bunch of flowers at the end of the day on retreat, you're going to probably have a lot of emotional neutrality, okay? Because you've burnt all that high all day, you're full, you're satisfied. Someone gives you a bunch of flowers and you're like, oh, they're beautiful, thank you so much. But if they give that bunch of flowers to you at the beginning of the day when you're all excited, you're in an emotional high, you're like, oh my God, they're the best flowers ever, thank you so much. And then someone gives you that same bunch of flowers the day you finish retreat, or let's say 3 days after retreat, you see the flowers and go, oh, they don't really help. And it's the same thing. The same thing's happening. It's just that there's a veil over the emotional being, especially in the high and the low. So that's the other thing. When you hear Mr. No speaking, and this for me has been really important, being an emotional person too, that you really actually just have to get to know your stories so that when you run the story, so when I get in my emotional low, I will worry about things like weird little health things, or I will worry about, I might go and run an old pattern about my ex-husband or about my kids, like parenting my kids. And I've now got to the point where I've kind of almost like I've written those stories down, and it's like they've got little tags on them. Like, oh, there's that story. I'm just in an emotional low. So I see it for what it is instead of listening to it. And I really feel it's that simple for you, because I think there's so much work you've done on all the layers and so much of your chart. And I think ultimately, and then I'll give you some space to respond, I've just looked across to your chart, and of course in your core wound, core talent, you have the 10, right? Yes. And what is the gate 10 all about? It's about, the love of the self. It's about trusting your own journey, your own behavior. Again, that almost ties in with the line 6. It's kind of a role model energy. So the core wound of self-obsession, again, we've got the repressive nature, self-denying, the reactive nature, narcissistic. So really what it's telling you is when you get into your emotional low, there's a really good chance that you're going to fall into a story of self-denial, okay? Because that's the repressive nature of the shadow of the 10, because that's your core wound. How does that all feel? What do you want to respond to?
Yes. That feels absolutely correct. And the gate 10 is so prominent in my chart. It is in my core wound. It's also, though, my conscious sun. So when I first learned about my human design, it didn't resonate with me. I didn't really get it. But now I certainly do, because these are things that I've struggled with. So I can definitely see that.
And, it's just being aware that this is the costume that your ego is going to dress up in. Do you know what I mean? Like it's going to dress up in this costume of self-denial or self-obsession. And again, just paying attention to, wow, what do I tell myself when this is showing up, so that you can consciously choose something different. And, the gift of naturalness. And again, I feel like the retreat's such a great example, because you did fall into this very line 4 kind of leadership role, as in you didn't necessarily stand out the front and say, follow me, but from the moment that you arrived, you were the standard. Like there was a standard, and people kind of like, wow, I'm going to reach to that. I'm going to reach to that. I'm going to reach to that. And I saw that in the room the whole time. And that's the 10. That's the 10. And to you just showed up as you, and you were just being you, but you brought really high standards. You brought, genuine compassion, concern, really powerful listening skills. And then whenever we did the exercises, you threw not only yourself 100% into it, but you also take feedback really, really well. So that's the 10. The 10 really shone in the room. So when we look at it this way, it's just that journey of you being in the gift, the high expression, and then with your emotional wave, then just dipping down, just showing up with shadow stories. But this isn't something that's ever going to go away completely, because you're an emotional being. This is part of the journey, except now it's time to learn that you just don't listen to those stories, that either you just press pause for 2 days to get a rest or to focus on something else, or you just remain gentle with yourself and take smaller, slower steps, knowing that this is the right thing, and just allowing yourself to pause when you need to wait for some emotional neutrality. How does that sound?
Yes, absolutely. I need to ride that emotional wave and apply it when I'm feeling this way. What are your thoughts on, I know it's rare to have a defined head center. So I've got both the head and my ajna defined. So I feel like I'm in this loop, this thinking loop. I'm always thinking, always. Any thoughts on the best way to deal with?
Well, I think the thing about having mental definition, and this is what I often say to people, is that you're not going to be a person that sits there with a silent, quiet mind.
No.
So the first thing to do is just let yourself off the hook, to know that you're thinking itself, it's a process. It's a structured process. 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. And this process is always happening. Now, whenever we have mental definition, we actually have to learn as much as possible to step out of the way of the process. So we allow the thinking to unfold. We allow this strategy that is your consistent, reliable way of thinking, that is the thing that you give to the world. It's your superpower. It's your gift. You have to learn to effectively take your hands off the wheel and allow it to unfold. So one of the best strategies I like, and I give to people all the time, is it's you're the person that probably wants to do transcendental meditation or Vedic meditation, or you have a mantra. I always say you want to give the puppy a bone. Give the puppy a bone. Give it, because often I hear from people with mental definition that they can't listen to guided meditation because they're like, well, shut up, it goes like this. It's a very different experience. So something like Vedic or TM will really help, okay? I know for me, without mental definition, like I had an amazing tea ceremony this morning and it was just pretty still. There was maybe a silent whisper from the mind in the background, but I was like completely, and I've done Vedic meditation and I don't love it because I don't love the constant repetition of words. Like I want to get rid of the words. But for you, it's also like, well, where else do you experience peace and presence? Does that mean, as a generator, walking, physically moving the body? Is there, sports that you love to do? And when you're doing that, is there music you can listen to? Do you have energy to listen to a podcast? Or, like your mind will, like, what is the bone you can give the puppy? And you only give it the bone that you have energy for, not the thing you think you should listen to. Not the, well, I want to read this book and listen to this podcast. No, it's like, what feels nourishing to me right now? Because the journey is to bring you into the present moment. That's the job, not to quiet the mind, because the system never shuts down. Like it can get slower and more quiet, but really it's more about presence than stilling the mind. Is that helpful?
It's so helpful. And the best thing for my mind is yoga. When I'm doing yin yoga and we are holding a pose for like 3 minutes, and sometimes it's uncomfortable, I have to really breathe into it. But I've realized that I'm not thinking, or my thoughts are very focused on just my breath and getting, so that has been one of the most helpful things. I've always wanted to do transcendental meditation, but I talked myself out of it, ironically enough, because I was like, Tracy, no, that's just another thing. So I'm going to look into that. It sounds like something. If my mind can, I like guided meditation because I can focus on that. It stops my mind from just going all over.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like different courses for different horses, or different horses for different courses, like you've got to find what works for you. And with, TM or Vedic, as much as this is so sacrilegious to say, they're basically the same thing. It's just about a mantra. So before you go and study in either of them, just say the word love over and over and over again, or say the word peace over and over and over again. Now, both of those traditions, TM and Vedic, they're very big on giving you a mantra. So I have a mantra, but you don't tell it to anyone. Everyone has their own mantra. And they won't even tell you how many different mantras there are. And they don't mean anything. So part of those traditions is it's very like, you've got to give the mind something that doesn't mean anything. So maybe that works for you, maybe that doesn't. I know for me, I get so much more out of something that means something. So I will either say love over and over if I need to try and get my mind focused on something because it's bloody everywhere. Or for me, the mantra I'm loving at the moment is just relax. And you heard me say this on retreat: relax, surrender, receive. So again, it's everything that I say all the time. Experiment, run the experiment, get your results, and then what works for you, do more of that and let go of what doesn't. But your mind is a very, very incredible gift and tool for the planet. It's not for you to make decisions. It's not to be running your life. It's something that you want to learn to sit back, because you have two channels as well. Like, even though it's not connected to the throat, so it's harder to language it, you actually have the full loop. So you have the inspiration, question, formulate and answer. So you have this whole loop in the way that you think. So that's beauty in itself. The more you can step back and not get involved, the more you can allow it to run its whole program, the more you'll be like, wow, that's fascinating. Oh, that's fascinating. And the more you'll be able to sort of detach from this incredible talent that you have, and realize that, wow, this is just something real that I'm really good at. This is a superpower, but it's not who I am. So that detachment from it, you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. And Emma, you're an emotional authority, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you run your own business, an amazing business. How do you make decisions with an emotional authority? We're supposed to make it over time, ride the wave. But do you ever find yourself, I mean, how do you handle it? Do you give yourself the time, or do you feel the pressure to make it in the decision in the moment?
So the old me, like in the early days, I was trained by so many different teachers, coaches, mentors to make as many decisions a day as possible. And it just never felt right for me. And it has also been a real challenge for me because in the beginning, I felt like I was letting people down, or I felt like I seemed like I was uncertain, or that I flip-flop in my decisions, or I'm unreliable. So there was all of these stories, and I think a lot of emotional beings feel the same thing. But honestly, the thing that set me free was just running the experiment. And the experiment is, okay, well, I'm going to wait. I'm going to give myself time, prioritizing the big decisions. So obviously the smaller decisions I just didn't get on my own case about. Either I had a decision or I didn't, I didn't worry. And even to the point where little things like, if I have no clarity on what I want for dinner, I'm like, well, someone else needs to make that decision. I've just learned to say, well, someone else needs to make the decision. Because it's one of the fundamental things that's grown my business the way it's grown, is that I have taught people that I don't respond immediately. I've taught people that, if you want the correct answer from me, you need to wait. And I will preface it with people and say, look, I need to wait. I'm going to sleep on it. I might give it a few days. I'll get back to you. I got really good at informing, I'm an MG as well, but just got really good at informing, because the truth is that every major decision that I've rushed, whether it was the correct decision or not long-term, it was either a much harder path or it just was the wrong decision anyway. So ultimately, through my experiment, I learnt really quickly that if I rush my decisions, I end up like holding the baby, if you like. I'm like, well, shit, I really didn't want to do this, or I didn't want to go there. And I still have some of my closest friends that I will say, hey, I know we're meant to be going for dinner tonight, but I just don't have energy for it. And they're okay with it. And I think sometimes it might irritate them, but at the same time, I am who I am, Yes. I wish I had the clarity that, sacrals had, or splenics had, or I wish I could just talk it through until it clicked, but I don't. That's just not who I am. So it's just been that really you've got to trust it. And I think one of the big lessons with being emotional is divine timing. I can look back at my marriage, right? I found myself in the same situation 3 times over 23 years of marriage, being together nearly 25 years. And I can remember the second time I was in this situation, we were going through it all, we were talking about separating, and it was really, really early on in my human design journey. And my emotional authority just gave me no, stay. And I'm like, fuck, like, seriously? Is this my ego? Is this my conditioning? Is this fear? But I trusted it and I just went with it. And then the third time this thing happened, I just remember thinking straight off the bat that the definition and the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. And then my ex said something to me, and as he said this thing to me, with no emotional high or low, I remember just saying, no, I'm done. So my emotional authority had guided me, even though back then I was pretty certain that it was inevitable. There was a part of me that always wanted to fix it and, you know, really believed in the longevity of a relationship. And like, I couldn't see what I couldn't see until I was on the other side of it. So I now look back and go, whoa, like my emotional authority had me the whole time, because when it was time to be done, it told me clear as day. So it's a muscle that we have to build, and it's going to be the thing that really delivers us divine timing. And so many of us are in such a rush, and we don't need to be in a rush, because at the end of the day, the whole world is moving fast. So what got you to this point is definitely not going to get you to the next. You know, things are going to be so much, the jumps, the leaps, whatever, they're going to be so much quicker. We don't know what's just around the corner. So again, this is why you always want to come back to our strategy and authority, because it knows, because it's bigger than the brain. It's bigger than our conscious awareness. You know, it's connected to everything. So it's really about trusting that and knowing that, okay, I'm designed this way, therefore my business is emotional. Like it's okay with me being emotional. It can handle it. My audience can handle it. Even in HDX for me, one of the big things that I will often do, and funnily enough, it's going to happen. I'm just about to teach a class in HDX after this or later today. And we had a specific topic booked for another class we've got this week. And I'm like, we're not ready for that. I'm going to do something different. So everyone who works with me, they also understand, like, the goalposts can move, because if the energy is not there, if it's not correct, then I'm not going to be the best version of me, and you're not going to get the best from me or from you. So it's this big trust piece of really learning to trust what we do know, strategy, authority, and what we don't know, everything else.
Right. I love that.
Is that helpful?
It's so helpful. It's good, just good reassurance. Is there anything else about my chart that I should know that stands out, that when I think about my business, it's all about, like I mentioned, helping women trust the answers within. It's working with them through human design, podcasting and retreats, and just also reminding them how beautiful this life is. It's called a beautiful fix. Is there in something in my chart that you see that maybe shows that I'm on the right path, or is there something else that jumps out?
Yeah. So I love this, because the thing I say all the time, like, we speak our design, and the idea that, or the fact that you even have this beautiful fix, of course you'd say that because you're a vessel of love, and the vessel of love has 4 gates in the G center. What's the G center all about? It's higher consciousness, self love, unconditional love, beauty. So there's this whole key that you're already doing it, you know, and it's something we saw on retreat. Like, everything you put together, it was like you were speaking your design. You know, the other thing that I think that just jumped out to me was just being aware, like, in your designed moon, so in the gene keys, this is our attraction sphere, you have the 51. And the 51, I think sometimes I feel it gets a bit of a hard rap in human design, because it's the gate of shock, and everyone's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, God, that feels uncomfortable. And, oh, yeah, shit, I get shocks all the time. But one of the things to understand is that this means that people are drawn to you, they're attracted to you because they see awakening in you. They want that. They're attracted to this ability you have to wake up others, to, to be awake yourself, because this whole channel which you have, the 5125, is the journey from the ego to the higher self. It's that we can choose to see this shock is, oh my God, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. Or we can choose to see this as an opportunity to move from fear to love. So much of what you've already created is there. Again, the question itself demonstrates the line 4's need for validation. Like you've got this. You can back yourself. You don't have to just stop believing everything you think. Start believing the things you feel. Start believing the subtle energy. Start really understanding, wow, I'm in an emotional low, so there's no point me making any decisions right now. Maybe I could go and write poetry or something, just allow yourself to be there without feeling the pressure to do anything about it. And ultimately, I feel like there is this, if you think about the business in your design Jupiter, which is our culture in our gene keys, you've got that line 5. So I think one of the things that I would be conscious of is where can you put yourself in the culture that looks like corporate senior leadership, okay? Because that's what the line 5 will kind of indicate. Now, you don't want to go back into that sort of environment, but this is where you're going to thrive. So whenever you're doing the work that you're doing, it might indicate that the culture or kind of, I'm going to stick with the word culture, that you'll thrive in is being exposed to people in a corporate place. And, I often think of this because there's so many people in our community with similar businesses like you or like me. This is potentially a consultant. So I think that I know you work on a consumer kind of level, like a one-to-one, helping people, yes, with their business, but personally, I would think about, all right, well, how can I do this in a bigger way? How can I do it where I have access to greater impact, corporate environments, senior leadership teams, like all of this sort of stuff that probably feels super uncomfortable, and equally at the same time, like, yeah, actually, I really would feel great in that space. So how does that feel?
Oh my God. It feels, I have thought about that, but it's ironic because I left my corporate career. I had a senior role. And I just leapt into the big unknown. It was a huge thing. And so the idea that that's in my chart, it brings a smile to my face. But I have thought about talking to, senior leadership about human design. I just don't know if they're ready for it,
Yeah. You see, I hear this all the time. And I think what I have learned is every single time we say, I just don't think they're ready for it, that's just a projection of our fear.
Yes.
You're just not ready to be uncomfortable, because I know that that's definitely been one of my fears. And one of my great talents is presenting to a cold room, a room of people that aren't at all spiritual or woo-woo, or at least they don't present that way, to a room of don't tell me who I am. Like, this is my superpower, and the truth is that every time I present, I have an overwhelming response. People are like, oh my God, tell me more. You just nailed me in 2 seconds. So it's more your fear that's stopping you than anything else. I would say know your audience. So I use a lot of science whenever I'm presenting to a cold room. I will talk about, all sorts of different things that really link it back to the science of, whether it's the science of neutrinos, whether it's the science of behavior, whatever it is, I link it back. But the moment you give them something that they're like, holy shit, like you are talking directly to me, they don't care how you get the information.
Yeah.
And I met someone fascinating a couple of weeks ago, and I can't remember her surname, Nicole something. And she is a tech startup entrepreneur, Australian, but lives in San Francisco. She was back for Christmas and presenting at this same thing that I was presenting at. And we were all talking about this because another one at the round table before we went up to speak, another one of the women at the table was asking us questions, and she said, I just don't think people are ready for that. And I shared my experience. I'm like, honestly, senior leaders, they love it. They lap it up. Like they absolutely love it. But Nicole, who's the tech startup, she said, here's the thing. I hang out with highly successful tech entrepreneurs, and every single one of them is a little bit weird, a little bit odd, and definitely believes in something bigger than themselves. Anyone who's had any great success, well, most people that have had any great success believe in something greater because they're not actually abiding by the rules, right? They've discovered that something, that because you don't lead by sticking to the rules, because the rules are created to be obedient, to be the factory worker, to be the masses, right? The moment you rise above that, you're already starting to think outside the box. So these are already people that are thinking outside the box. So I would actually say, maybe they will, maybe they won't. Maybe they're ready, maybe they're not. But who gives a stuff? Like if you love what you do and you show up with that passion and commitment, they lap it up.
And do you change the language at all? Do you do the BG? I haven't learned.
I don't.
With humans. Okay, you
nope. I just go for it. Like I go for it. And sometimes like I'll even use like, again, behavior is my jam. Like I love this, but I will say like, so for all the skeptics in the room, yep, that's me too. Or that was me too. Like you can call them out. Like that's the other thing that I always do. I'll call out my fears. And again, this is like a sales tactic, but it's naturally been something I've always done. I'll call out the elephant in the room, like in case you think this is some woo-woo, let's talk about neutrinos, and I always say there's $100 million facility in Japan studying neutrinos. They are fundamental to how our universe works. So when you throw in all this validity, they're just like, okay, all right. And their brain gets on board with it, and so once you know your room, and a lot of the way I present, and I will present, there will be differences and nuances for every room I go into. And again, I follow my gut. I trust what comes through. Whatever I feel inspired to share is what I share. I don't think about it logically. I really trust the process. And again, for you with mental definition, you might just have one logical process and then you just tweak a few things because that's your mastery. So again, trust yourself, trust your design. But going back to that culture piece, like you are going, when you're aligned and in that like senior leadership corporate culture, that should feel really good to you.
I'm just blown away. Thank you so much. And Emma, I just noticed.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm still wearing it.
Yeah. Well, I wear them like, I think T actually had almost all of hers on for the longest time, and then her nephew vomited on them all.
Oh, no.
I know, right? It's a small thing to deal with when you've got a cute new baby nephew. But yeah, they're really cool. I love it, they're really, really cool. Well, thank you so much for being here, Tracy. And I'm so excited to see where everything goes with you. And I think ultimately just give yourself the validation, just give yourself the validation. Stop giving your power away to other people thinking that they know more than you do. You're extraordinary. You're amazing. All you got to do is follow through. That's all you got to do. Just keep going.
Emma, thank you so much. This is truly an honor. I haven't been able to sleep for days. This is such a gift. Thank you so, so much for everything.
You're so welcome, and I'm so grateful that you're a part of my world. So thank you.
Thanks for listening to A Beautiful Fix. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a quick review to help others find us. And if you'd like to share your own beautiful fix or join me as a guest, reach out anytime at Tracy@abeautifulfix.com. Looking forward to next time.